Welcome to another episode, and today is a day that I am so excited about. I can't even begin to cover how amazing this is for me. I get the opportunity to sit down and really take a good, solid look at the series that ignited my passion for gaming, that brought my soul into the world of video games, the Mega Man Classic series. This one's gonna take a while, so sit down and get comfy, pop some popcorn, and here we go. Wow. I don't even really know where to begin with the insanity that has overtaken my life. Mega Man the Classic series. It all started back in 1987 when Capcom, still a very beginning company, decided they wanted to put out an action platformer game and see how that would do with the arcade action on a home console. And Keiji Inafune was asked to step in and help flush out a game that would come to be known as Rockman in Japan and Mega Man in North America. Mega Man is, for all intents and purposes, your classic action platformer, and the first game in the series when it came out certainly was that, but it made innovations that no one had ever thought of before. The most chief among these was the ability to choose what order you would do the levels in. Never before had this kind of free roaming experience been put into a home console game. So the fact that you could choose any boss, do the levels in any order, was an amazing step forward in game making. The second really big innovation that they made with Mega Man was the ability to take a boss's power and use it on other enemies. No one had ever really thought of that concept before, and it was a really cool thing. Keiji Inafune, of course, takes a lot of his influence from his love of music, and when he named the main characters Rock and Roll, that was a dead giveaway. Later, when Proto Man showed up, his name was Blues, which was another music reference, and of course, treble and bass over here were known as gospel and forte, also musical terms. The other big innovation for the first Mega Man game was based on a very popular game still in Japan today, Rock, Paper, Scissors. The idea that one boss's weapon would trump another boss, and this little game of one-upmanship added a depth of strategy to playing through the levels. If you knew what order to do them in, you could fly through the game a lot quicker. Difficulty is one of the big hallmarks of this series. Absolutely, and Mega Man 1 was the prime example and the first step on a long path of agony and controller throwing. Now we fast forward a couple of years, 1989, and Mega Man 2 suddenly shows up. Again, not being the video game magazine guy when I was a kid, I had no idea until I walked into a rental store and saw it available. I just about burst into tears, I was so excited. I ran home, I begged my parents for the money to rent it, I went back and it was still there, I took it home. My parents actually set up a TV in our dining room just for me to play that, and I played it all night. I finished it like 4 times in a row. I just loved it so much. Although none of the play mechanics had changed, the challenge level definitely stepped up a notch, but also the graphics and the sound in this game were amazing. Mega Man 2 has some of my favorite music out of the entire series. The music from that game is so popular, in fact, that a band called the Megas made an album called Get Equipped, and it's rock ballad covers of every track from that game. Highly recommend picking it up if you haven't listened to it already. In 1990, Mega Man 3 hit store shelves, and as always, the series had a couple of new innovations to keep things interesting. The first of which was Breakman, who would later be renamed as Proto Man. He would show up at random points and challenge you to a duel, and after he felt you'd shown him enough, he'd let you proceed through the level. Now, the most major milestone to show up in Mega Man 3, Rush. Our faithful sidekick, our pet, our companion, our jumping coil, our submarine, our jet. Basically, he was to replace all of those items in Mega Man 2 that helped us access hard-to-get-to areas and find secrets. This was also the game that introduced the slide maneuver, which became a staple in the rest of the series and adds a whole lot to how you play through and how you battle the bosses. Another key feature of Mega Man 3 that was quite surprising was that after you finished the first 8 Master Robots, you had to fight all 8 of the Master Robots from Mega Man 2 in the guise of the Doc robot form. The challenge on these levels, fighting 2 bosses per stage, was insane. But yet another reason why Mega Man 3 remains one of the hardest games ever released in the series. 1991 brought us Mega Man 4, and its chief innovation was the inclusion of the Charge Shot or Mega Buster, another staple today for most of the rest of the series. Mega Man 4 also introduced a new final villain in the guise of Dr. Cossack, although he was actually being controlled by Dr. Wily because his daughter had been kidnapped. 4 was also our first introduction to Eddie, or Flip Top, the traveling suitcase that would provide support items at random points throughout the levels. In 1992 we got Mega Man 5. As you can see, the games are starting to come out on an annual basis, but with each incarnation, the graphics are a little better, the sound is a little more awesome, and the challenge is a little higher. This time, Proto Man was the supposed final boss, wreaking havoc on the city. Mega Man 5 also brought us the first appearance of our good old pal Beat, and anyone who's fallen into a hole 8 million times knows that that little bird can save you in a very crucial moment. A very cool character, and I've always really liked his inclusion in the Mega Man family. Mega Man 6 was the final incarnation of Mega Man on the 8-bit NES, and what a way to go. For the first time ever, Keiji Inafune asked artists from all over the world to send in their ideas for Robot Masters, and he picked the top 8 favorites and made them the bosses in the game. The concept for the story was that there was an international robot building contest hosted by Mr. X. Of course, Mr. X took all the robots and reprogrammed them to take over the world, and he turned out to be Dr. Wily. But what an awesome game! The graphics on it were fantastic, and some of the innovations included new ways for Rush to assist you by turning you into Jet Mega Man, who could hover but couldn't use a charge shot, and Power Mega Man, who could throw his fists in powerful punches that could break down walls and open secret areas. The Mega Man NES games are some of my favorite of all times, and one of the coolest parts about them was that Keiji Inafune used to hold annual contests for artists to submit their drawings and ideas for bosses, and he picked some of his favorites, and that's how a lot of the bosses in these games got chosen and made. I actually remember reading at one point that for Mega Man 4, he scrapped an entire level and redesigned it because he decided to use Skullman at the last minute and wanted a skull-themed level, so they actually rebuilt it from the ground up just because of that drawing.